Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Truth 101. Happy Sunday. So happy to be here. I got my little bro, Gavin. So what's up? So
What's up?
happy
What's
to
up?
have you here today. Thank you for taking time out your day to sit and chat with me and everybody else who's interested to learn about you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Amen. Yes, I'm so proud of Gavin. I was just telling him that before we came on. I met him about 2 years ago with my husband. He was, I think my husband was in recovery with your parents. And
Yep,
so,
yep.
yep, I happened to meet Gavin, and it's just been amazing just watching you grow, watching you on the news talk about your recovery, and then standing strong in your recovery, like really being about this life that you're talking about. So I'm so proud of you, and I just wanted you to get on, and maybe you can encourage some other young people, because the culture is we all get high, we all right, but really the culture can be changed, and you're an example of that. So I just really appreciate you coming on, and I'm gonna let you have it. Tell us a little bit about what where you come from.
Yeah, so my name is Gavin. My sober date is 10/6/2020. Oh man, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that this is my fifth podcast I've been on in the last like 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's I love this. I love this type of stuff. I love doing podcasts and just I don't know, just being that inspirational person to be, or not even inspirational, but person to be, have the opportunity to share some knowledge and strength and hope, um, on something like this, because it's an amazing opportunity. It's very humbling. Um, so thank you again for letting me join. Yeah, a little bit with my story, man, or just a backstory. I got sober for the first time when I was 14. Um, and so that was definitely something that I it was definitely something that was interesting for me, because I wasn't really so sure of being sober at a young age, um, and I wasn't really so sure of, like, oh, how is this gonna work out, how is this gonna play a part into my life, like getting sober young. And I remember, being 14 years old, going into treatment for the first time, and it was scary. It was a really, really scary situation for me. And getting sober young, it was like I was the only young kid who was actually getting sober around my hometown. Um,
Right. So, real quick question. I don't mean to cut you off, but at 14, what prompted you to go to treatment, though? You know what I mean? Like, what thought did you have? Like, okay, I'm 14. I shouldn't be getting high. Or, like, what was it that made you decide to go to treatment at 14?
it's a good question. So it's actually a funny story. Okay.
I'm all for it.
So I mean, like, as a little backstory, like, with that, I was doing drugs and I was smoking weed and drinking and doing like Xanax and stuff like that at a young age, and like popping Adderall. But from like sixth grade up until my freshman year of high school. So I got sober. Like I said, I got sober for the first time my freshman year, that's the first time I went to treatment. But I went to treatment before that, when I was about right as I turned 14, for having 40 loose pills of Adderall in my backpack. But this time, like the time that I actually took it serious, I got sent to treatment because I told my counselor, I was like, hey, I've been on meth for the last like 3 weeks. I was not on meth.
Right, right. I figured that.
I was not on meth, but I thought that it would, because I got suspended for having cigarettes at school, so I thought that it would, I thought I'd look cool for it. Like, oh, he's going to treatment, blah, 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 he's the shit, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Sorry for my language.
Hey, express yourself.
So that was what I told my counselor for the first time. I was like, yeah, I've been doing meth and stuff like that. I think I need treatment. But it was a blessing in disguise, because like that's what got me introduced to sobriety. And I got sober for the first time, and I stayed clean after I went to treatment for about 90 days to 120 days in residential. And I did residential treatment for about 3 to 4 months, and man, I stayed clean for about 8 months after that.
Wow.
So yeah, man. I mean, that's like what prompted me to go to treatment for the first
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
Um, when I actually started taking it serious.
Mhm.
So it was that's my funny story with that. I've never really told anyone that
Well, now you
until
just told a whole
lately.
bunch of people that.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, and it's that humility part, because I lied about it for so long, like, oh, I just
Yeah.
went to treatment. Never really had a reasoning on why I went to treatment until I started telling people the real reason why I started going to treatment.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, yeah. But I mean, with that, like I'm 20 years old. I grew up with a family with parents who were addicts and alcoholics. My biological father was a meth and cocaine addict. So growing up, I grew up without a father. I grew up without a father figure, father male role model, and I remember at a young age, thinking like I didn't really have anyone to really look up to.
Yeah.
My mom's was too busy, focusing on my biological dad and his problems and his issues, and he was a criminal. He was an addict, in and out of my life, in and out of prison, in and out of on off the streets. He was homeless. Um, so I never had a real relationship with my father. My mom wasn't mentally or emotionally present growing up.
Yeah.
Uh, she never really struggled hard with hardcore drugs. She drank a lot. She partied a lot when she was growing up, when she was younger, growing up. As me and my older brother were kids. Um, my stepdad though came into the picture when I was about 3 to 4 years old,
Mhm.
and at that age, at the time, I didn't know that. I was like 3 or 4. I didn't know that he was an addict or an alcoholic. And so I didn't really see much. I don't really remember much, but as my biological dad left my life, my stepdad came in my life, and about a year after my parents met, they got married and had a kid, or had my little brother,
Mhm.
and so I remember from 4 years old up until about, gosh, probably about 11 or 12, my parents were drinking a lot.
Yeah.
Um, my parents were very emotionally and mentally not present in my life. And I mean, but my parents were great parents. I mean,
Mhm.
they did everything they could to support us kids and support our family and make sure we had a roof over our head. So I can't say I grew up in a really, really poor household, but I
Mhm.
grew up with parents who just weren't mentally and emotionally present.
Yeah. I hear that a lot from my kids, to be transparent. I have kids that's close to your age. I have a 23-year-old daughter and a 21-year-old son, and that's exactly what I hear. They never tell me that I was like a bad parent, but I was drinking and I was partying a lot when they were growing up, and that's exactly the same thing they say. They like, we know it wasn't bad, but you
Yeah,
wasn't emotionally there for me. But that's a big thing. We don't, know that, but it is, to be emotionally available for your children, because then you would have had somebody you felt like you can talk to, or somebody
yeah,
that
exactly.
could feel where you were coming from.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly like what it was for me. Like I I ultimately didn't understand what it was like to grow up. I ultimately didn't understand what it was like to grow up with parents who were present. Because I thought that shit was normal.
Hmm.
Any kid at that age would think it was normal.
Hmm.
And so I can relate to that. Because like I would, I and I and I and I'll be transparent as well. I blame my parents a lot for my problems, for the
Hmm.
way for the way I grew up and the way that I think and feel and believe now.
Hmm.
Which ultimately I can't put that on my parents because that's how I viewed myself and how I view other things in my life.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, with that, being said, with growing up with my parents and growing up, I remember getting introduced to drugs at a very young age. I mean, I saw it with my parents.
Yeah.
I saw it with my parents and the drinking. I knew what alcohol was by the time I was like 5.
Hmm.
I knew what weed was by the time I was like 10. And I knew what meth and coke were because my biological dad, but I never saw it.
Right.
You know, um, but I do remember, like going into about actually, I started getting in a lot of criminal trouble at like the age of like 7.
Wow, 7.
Yeah,
So
I got suspended for the first time in 3rd grade for graffiti in the bathrooms.
mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like the first begin. That was like the beginning partridge of um, like this path down the road that my dad was on.
Mm-hmm.
Like the path that my dad took when he was a young kid, and the path that he was on. And I remember, like I was stealing, I was lying, I was getting in all this trouble with the law. Not even the law, it was just school and my parents. And I would lie about the stupidest things ever. I would lie about whatever it was. I would steal
Mm-hmm.
whatever I could. Remember, I was like 7 or 8. I stole a bag of balloons from Cub Foods, and I said no, I never. My grandma asked me where I got it from, and I said I don't know. I found it at the house, and she knew exactly where it came from.
Right.
And I lied about it, and so that was like my first ever addiction that I had, was lying and stealing,
Mm-hmm.
and that was at a young age, and so I remember I tried a cigarette for the first time in like 4th grade. My first time ever smoking a cigarette was like third or fourth grade, and going in with that, that was my first ever chemical I actually ever tried, and that's what that's what triggered my mindset of like that addictive mindset.
Addictive behavior. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
addictive behaviors that I had, and from then on, I was like, I got introduced to, and I'm gonna keep it blunt and honest, like sex and pornography and stuff like that at a very young age as well. That was also triggered that very addictive mindset as well.
Mm-hmm.
On top of tobacco and drugs and alcohol, I drank for the first time in 6th grade. Started vaping in 6th grade, smoking weed. I was prescribed Adderall too as well from third grade up until my freshman year of high school, and that's also what I think started my addiction.
Yeah.
And what started this road to addiction of liking uppers.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think what a lot of it came down to was me being prescribed Adderall, and why I got so like, not even just like, oh, I like drugs, but like, oh, like this makes me feel good.
Exactly.
Like this numbs me. This makes me feel some type of way that I've never felt before.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I started abusing my Adderall. I'd go and take about 2 or 3 a day, on top of my prescription that I shouldn't have been doing. And and so that's what like started a lot of it, and started and triggered a lot of my addiction was my Adderall and my all that type of stuff. But I was hanging out with a lot of kids who were older than me.
Yeah.
Kids who were 3, 4, 5 years older than me, and that was a very hard time for me because I was the type of kid that wanted to fit in, as a young kid, growing up with parents who were addicts and alcoholics. I didn't know how to fit in with kids. I didn't know how to make friends.
Right.
I had friends, but like I fit in with the kids who would do stupid things and do dumb things because I could gain that acceptance from them.
Mm-hmm.
They told me to go do something. I'd be like, yeah, I'll do it because I want you to like me and I want to be able to be accepted by you.
Yeah.
I want to be able to be loved by you because I can't find this love at home that I want.
Mm-hmm.
Or that I should be getting, this attention that I should be getting at home.
Right.
And I found this through these older kids because it would make me feel good about myself. It would make me feel good in the way of like, oh my gosh, like someone's paying attention to me.
Yeah.
Someone's finally paying attention to me. Someone's finally giving me the self-worth and the sense of worthiness that I've always craved and wanted in my life. So, I started catching charges. I caught my first charge for assault in 6th grade. And this comes with a lot of humility, and I'm not proud of it, but it's part of my story, of where I came from.
Yeah.
I got encouraged by some older kids, in 6th grade at a party to go smack a kid or go smack this girl with soap in my hand, and I was like, oh, like okay, and I did it, because I wanted them to like me.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the life of the party. I wanted to be like, oh my god, like this kid's the shit, blah 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 blah. Like I wanted everyone to know my name
Mm-hmm.
so I could have friends. But what did that give me? That caught me charges. That caught me a charge on my record as a 12-year-old. I had 100 and something hours of community service due to that.
Yeah.
I was on probation, and from then on, I was just getting in trouble after nonsense after nonsense after nonsense after that incident. And I'll forever be um, forever say sorry and make amends to that girl that I did that to. And by the grace of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, I'm able to do that.
Yeah.
And have that humility to make amends to those
Mm-hmm.
people who I've hurt. And that's by the grace of God as well. Like more,
Yeah.
God willing, I'm able to do more things for my life and do more things for other people to who I've harmed throughout my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's amazing just to hear you talk about a lot of the things just from your perspective of your childhood and things like that. And I think that as a parent, let me just say, I think that we do hold some responsibility for that, because at home is where you first learn how to act. You first learn what love is and what love looks like, what fun is and what fun looks like, right? Like these, we're your first influences. So I always apologize to my kids about that, about like not being emotionally available, because then it sends you off on a mission. Now you're on a
Yeah,
mission to be accepted, to be loved, to be liked, right? At least you have somebody that's rooting you on and cheering for you, even if it's for the wrong stuff. But now you have acceptance, you have people that's like really got your back. But what's apparent to me is that God definitely had a plan for your life starting so young in life. You know what I mean?
yeah, for
Like
sure.
he had the plan formed, of course, before you were born. But it shows true that from a young age, he was pulling you out of this place so that he could use you. And that was just like amazing, all the things that you are doing, which I'll let you tell us how you got to that point. But I just want to encourage you that way. Is like everything about your story is like God's hand is all on it. And we all go back and we feel bad about the things of our past, but if you hadn't experienced those things of your past, you probably wouldn't be who you are today, and you probably wouldn't have the heart and the humility that you have today. You know what I mean?
For sure. So here, I have a question for you then. As
Yep.
coming from a mother's perspective,
Yep.
do you think that what's the word that I'm trying to look for? Like the decisions that your kids have made throughout their lives, or the blaming, or not even the blaming, but just like the decisions that they've made. Do you think a lot of that has to do with like, and I'm not even gonna put it in your perspective, but as a mother or a father, do you think that a mother or a father's behaviors has to do with a lot of the kids' decision making growing up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can tell you to do stuff all day long, but what are you going to do is look at me and you're going to follow my example or not. You're going to be like, how you going to tell me to do certain things when you're not even living this life, when you're not even
Yeah,
doing this, what you're telling me to do, right? How can you know what something looks like if you don't really have anyone showing you that or modeling that, right?
yeah,
So it's like, yes, I take responsibility for those things, which is why some of those things, which is why I take it so serious now, living life differently. You know what I mean?
for
Because I
sure.
feel like now, I couldn't control going back and changing what's already happened. I can't control that. What's already done is done. But what I can do is I could be a better person today to try to repair that damage. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
yes, I tell my kids that all the time. Like, I'm sorry I wasn't what you needed me to be. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know no better.
Yeah,
I was messed up, and I own that, and I'm sorry for that. But what I can example, I could walk it like I talk it, and I could be a better example for you. So yes,
yep,
I absolutely think that we play a major role in the things that our kids do.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, and I think that that comes down to a lot of it, where they're learned behaviors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like for myself, my learned behaviors that I got from my parents were well on the addiction side, but also the way that I treat people. I've seen with my parents, but also I found more values. I found more morals and values throughout seeing the
Hmm.
things that I've seen throughout my life.
Hmm.
With the way that my biological dad treated my mom, through the way that my stepdad treated my mom and my mom treated my stepdad. I told myself I would never be like that, but I also have treated women like that,
Hmm.
the same way that my parents have treated each other, because
Hmm.
those were learned behaviors
Yeah.
that I saw throughout my life. But it's that part of that humility part that I have, and part of this. They say in Alcoholics Anonymous, is the step four, a moral inventory of ourselves.
Hmm.
And I take this moral inventory of the things that my wrongs that I've made, and flip it back on myself, and where I was at fault for that.
Yeah.
And because I can blame my parents for their drinking, I can blame my parents for their drug use, I can blame my parents for the fighting, I can blame my parents for the neglect here and there, I can blame my parents for the hurt, I can blame my parents for yelling and screaming and everything else. But where am I at fault now at
Right.
20 years old for the decisions
Right.
and the things that I had done?
Right.
You feel me?
Oh yeah. I believe that, once you become an adult, or even when you become aware, right? Because you're a kid,
Yeah.
before then. I think when you become aware and you're able to own it, then yes, it's yours. When you're able to look at yourself and say, why am I doing this? Or if you could recognize, like, when my parents do this, I feel this way. Why am I doing this to other people? That's your thing now. You can make your life what you want it to be. And I tell my kids that too. Like, don't get lost in that self-pity, like, oh, my parents this and my parents that, because you have control over your life. And don't let our shortcomings stop you all from being the best person that you can be better
Yeah.
than we were, learn
Yep.
earlier than we did. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. No,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's the thing, is and you can become a better person than what you used to be like. And
Absolutely.
like my mom just said in the chat, you said we were sick for so many years we didn't know how to parent.
Absolutely.
Me the way that me and my brother say it is me and my brother were the lab rats for our parents.
Yeah.
You know, we're our parents' lab rats,
Hmm.
and we were the trial and the errors for my parents. But we're also the ones that have helped our parents grow into who they want, who they have become now today.
Right. Right.
Um, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the relationship that I have with my parents now. It's still rocky.
Yeah.
It's still hard, but I'm beyond grateful for it.
Hmm.
Um, because I'm closer with my parents more than ever now.
Amen.
And so with that being said, like that gets me into talking more about my story and how I hurt and I've affected that. I like I was talking about earlier. I got sober at 14, but that was not my first rodeo.
Right.
I uh, I spent I've been in treatment 15 times, all before the age of 18. It's a lot of treatment centers.
Yeah.
A lot of treatment centers before the age of 18, and I've spent 4 birthdays in the treatment center. I spent my 15th, 16th, or 3 birthdays. My 15th, 16th, and 17th birthday in the treatment center. Um, and I spent a lot of that in. I blamed my parents a lot for going into treatment because I felt like I didn't have a problem. I used once and I get sent to treatment. I'd use again, I get sent to treatment. I'd use once, I go sent to treatment. It'd just be a reoccurring cycle. I'd use once, I'd stay sober for a long time, then I'd go back to treatment. I'd be like, well, why am I the problem? But you guys get to smoke weed and drink,
Yeah.
but I get sent to treatment. Why? How does that play out? How is
Yeah.
that fair? And so I resented my parents, for so long. And something that I say all the time is, resentment is the number one offender to relapse. And that was my thing, is I resented my parents for so long that it kept me sick and I went out and relapsed over it.
Hmm.
Because I was like, well, I would get in a fight with my parents and I'd go out and use. And now that I'm older, I realize and understand why I got sent to treatment. Because I have a problem.
Yeah.
I can't. I go to the. Yeah, I think that I can manage it, and I go to the fullest extent of it during those relapses. And I remember there was one time, I think I was a junior in high school. I was sober for like 8 months, and my mom found me blacked out drunk in my bathtub with a 1.75 in my mouth.
Wow.
And I was blacked out, puke all down in the bathroom. I was in the bathtub. The curtains closed. My mom thought I was high on like fentanyl, on an opiate. Like she thought I was dead. And my mom thought I was literally dead because of it. And she didn't know what was going on. She didn't know what was happening. And I thank goodness she called the cops. But I remember that point. That I was at was where I was literally like at my deathbed.
Yeah.
I get to that. Those are the points that I get to when I'm used. I don't stop. I don't stop, and I won't stop. When I do use, and I just know where it gets me, and so I got sent to treatment for about 8 months because of that incident. On top of it, we had a CPS case open because I told, during that, I told CPS and told the doctors and the police that my parents were selling drugs out of the house because I was so resentful towards my parents. And I was so mad at my parents that, I wanted them to get in trouble and I wanted them to feel how I felt.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to the length and the extent to, get you in trouble. You're putting me in treatment, so why not get you guys, in trouble for decisions or things like that?
Right.
And I told the police that my parents were selling Adderall and drugs out of the house, and I got placed into foster care for about 8 months. My little sister got sent to my grandma's, and I got sent to treatment and placements for about 8 months. And man, that was a long 8 months, but that's what really, really, really kept me like on my forefront and grounded on my feet. And I still resented my parents a lot. Like I did not have a relationship with my mom or my dad for about 3 or 4 months into my sobriety that time. Just because I resented them for everything, and I just didn't care about what they had to say or what happened.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I did 8 months in treatment. I stayed clean for about 1.5 years. Up until my senior year, up until I graduated high school. And, thank goodness, I graduated. I was the first one in my family to receive a diploma.
Look at that.
Yeah. So I was the first one in my family to receive a diploma. And I remember the look on my face when I graduated. I remember that look. I was like, damn, I did it. I was a COVID graduate.
Yeah.
Right as COVID started, and I graduated, and from there it went downhill. I was like, oh, I'm 18 now.
Yeah.
18, graduated, and I said, fuck it all. Because mom and dad can't tell me what to do now.
Right? You grown now.
I'm grown. Mom and dad can't send me to treatment. Mom and dad can't tell me to do this or that. So I said, fuck it, and I went out, and I went out, and I started drinking again after 1.5 years of being sober. I drank for about 3 months straight, or about 2.5 months straight, and up until October, about June, July, August, September, October, about 4 months. But during that 4 months, August of 2020, I got introduced to cocaine and meth. And mind you, remember when I told you in the beginning how I've told my counselor how I was doing meth, and my biological father passed away back in 2018 to a meth overdose. So I've told myself my whole life that I would never do meth or cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
But I did it. I got hooked on the meth and coke for about 3 weeks, 3 4 weeks, and I lost a lot of good things in my life. I lost a lot of people. I lost a lot of friends. I lost my family. I lost a lot of trust in my family. I was on the verge of homelessness, I guess you could say. Like my mom was going through so much shit at the time that like she just did not care what I did because she was so over the shit that I was doing. And the fact of it all was, like I was flaunting my addiction to my mom.
Yeah.
I was in this like selfish mode where I was like, hey, look at what I got. I got a bag of coke. Chopping up a line down in my room. Hey mom, I'm high on coke right now. Just to piss her off even more.
That resentment.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
pissed at her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I wanted her to care.
Yeah.
And the fact that she was not showing me that she was caring made me want to do it even more. Because I resented her so much. And I realized that, and I did a lot of self gosh, what is the word? A lot of self-reflection on that, in that situation. And during that time of my life, like a lot of that time, was just to flaunt my addiction to my mom and my family of like, I'm hurting. Why are you guys not listening? Why do you guys not see that? Why can't you guys see that I'm hurting?
Yeah.
Why are you guys not doing so much? Why aren't you guys doing anything for me? Why aren't you guys doing anything? And I had to realize that I was on my own at that time. I had to figure it out by myself. And October 6th of 2020, I wouldn't say I overdosed, but I was on the verge of an overdose. Like my meth had fentanyl in it, and I did a line that day, and I literally I couldn't breathe. I started a new job that day, and I got fired literally the same day because I was so high. I was high as a kite.
Yeah.
And I got sent home, and that was my spiritual awakening of like my wake up call. Like,
yes.
Boom, smack in the face.
Yes.
After that overdose, and I got sober the next day, and it was just and I've been clean since. I've been clean since that day.
Amen.
And so, there's so much more to my story with that, of like where I'm at, what had happened, and what it's like now, a lot of it came with having a relationship with a higher power greater than myself, who I call Jesus, who I call Christ, who I call God, and I'm a firm believer of Christ. I'm a firm believer of everything in this world happens for a reason. Nothing in this world happens for a reason. Absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake.
That's right.
It talks about it in the Bible, Jeremiah 29:11, it says, let me see, what is the Bible scripture? It is, I'm going to read it real quick.
Yes, by all means.
It says, for I know I have it's Jeremiah 29:11. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are good plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and hope.
Period.
And I'm a firm believer of that, I believe that is everything that I've been through, has happened for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that my dad dying happened for a reason. I believe that my parents being addicts and alcoholics happened for a reason. Mm-hmm. I believe that my mom's mental health happened for a reason. I believe that my mental health happened for a reason. My addiction, me getting kicked out of school, me getting in trouble with the law, me going to treatment, I feel like a lot of that stuff has happened for a reason.
Yes.
And the reason why I'm put on this earth today is because of all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I share a lot on this of, purpose. Everyone in this world is put on this earth for a reason.
Yes.
We are all put on this earth with a destiny in life to fulfill and prosper a purpose.
Yes.
And that my purpose in life is to make a difference.
Yes.
You know, I went through addiction. I went through mental health. I went through all these crises. I went through 15 treatment centers. I went through hurting my parents. I went through, going through so much shit in my life that it has shaped me into the young man I am today.
Yes.
And I'm able to give that back to other people. I work at a treatment center with teen boys and substance abuse.
That's amazing.
And I say substance abuse because I don't like drug addiction. I hate that word.
Right.
Even though I say it, but I like to refer it as substance abuse.
Yeah.
Because I see it as a more positive wording. So I have the opportunity to work with teen boys and substance abuse, and man, that is a blessing.
Yes.
At 20 years old,
yes,
my Lord, that's a blessing.
Yeah.
And I'm able to have an opportunity to give back to these teen boys and show them what it's like to live a life in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And that no matter what you go through in life, there's so much more to life to live than drugs and alcohol.
Yes.
And that's an opportunity I get to grasp upon, and an opportunity that I get to shed out onto. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh my God, it's so amazing. You're a voice for the voiceless, and then with you being so young, I don't think your story will hold as much power if you didn't go through everything that you went through, Because
Exactly.
so many people can give suggestions or recommendations, or they can tell people to do things, but it hits different when you've actually experienced these things.
Yeah.
You've actually been through these things and you're actually living this life, So that's I'm just in awe. I'm so sad to hear that overdose. Like I almost just start crying because you're such a beautiful person and you have so much purpose and so much to offer. And like I'm a firm believer. And of course, God has plans to prosper you and not to harm you. And it's showing like the work that you're doing at 20 years old. Like you're so wise. And now you have your head on right. And every day we're just trying to make it through clean, right? We're like not counting tomorrow. We're just working on today. But just for today, I just want to tell you, like, I'm really proud of you. And you're gonna save people's lives. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so many people dropping. I'm sure you see it. I know I see it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Tonight I actually just saw your husband. I just saw JP. I'm with him right. I'm over at Sam Peterson's house right now. Doing this right now. But I'm actually doing a balloon release for a buddy of mine who died.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's I've lost over. Gosh, I grew up with like 10 kids who, from elementary school up until like now, like 10 kids out of like not my friend group, but like 10 kids that I've known that I was close with who have died to drug overdoses, suicide, or gun violence.
Wow. Right.
And then on top of that, I lost count of how many people I've lost to overdoses.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've lost over, gosh, give or take about 15 to 20.
Yeah.
All before the age of 20.
Yeah.
And I've been to more funerals than I've been to weddings.
Yeah.
I've been to more funerals than I have been to McDonald's, probably.
Yeah.
That's a sad reality
mm-hmm.
of addiction. And some things that I tell my kids at my treatment center is, don't let your life get to that point.
Right.
To where your parents are having to plan your funeral out.
Right.
Because my parents 2 years ago were at that point where they were about to plan my funeral.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't get my shit together.
Mm-hmm.
And Lord willing, I got my shit together and they don't have to plan my funeral out anytime soon.
That's right. It's an escape, like you say, it's either a call out for acceptance, they're trying to fit in, or they're trying to escape. Whatever it is, it's not worth it, and they don't have to do drugs to fit in. There's a world, and people like you exist,
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even think that people your age, living a sober life exists. Everybody
No,
feels like they need to get drunk or they need to get high to fit in with the younger crowd. So that was what was really important too about us meeting today. Is I'm like, I know when I was 20 years old, that's what life was about. It was about drinking and partying, and I'm gonna just be honest about it. I didn't even know like people didn't do that. And the people that did do it, I didn't feel like there were people I would probably hang out with because that's not the type of stuff that I do. So I just really appreciate you sharing this, and I pray that the right people get to see this and that people share it so that young people will be set free. You don't have to be like the people you're around, and that's not an escape. It only makes your life worse.
for
Really.
sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know so many. I mean, I can't say that I've cut every single friend off that drinks because I still got friends that drink.
Yeah.
But I can see in their lives how it affects them,
Yeah.
and I can see because I got a few friends who I still hang out with who drink on a weekend basis, on the weekend, and sometimes I'm the designated drunk driver for them, just because I want them to be safe. But I can see, I'm around it sometimes, and I'm like, damn, like this is not the type of shit that I miss doing.
Right.
I'm like, I'm so glad I'm sober right now. Like shit, like gosh, like this is the type of stuff that I don't miss
Right.
while using.
No,
And
same. You don't
you
miss it.
know, yeah, no, I don't miss it. And another thing, on top of it is mental health. Is another big thing to talk about. Real quick. Is like I just got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and bipolar 2. On top of anxiety and depression, and I feel like a lot of times, nowadays, kids don't understand or realize how much mental health is really affecting them.
Mm-hmm.
That to the point where it starts an addiction
Mm-hmm.
to whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
self harm, alcoholism, drug addiction,
Mm-hmm.
can be anything. And I want to say that if anyone out there is struggling with mental health or addiction, like reach out. Like there's so much more to life to live than harming yourself and your body. Your body is a temple. Take care. You got to take care of your temple.
Yeah.
Whether that comes to physical health, mental health, emotional health, like you got to be able to take care of yourself. I myself am a very hard person at taking care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I forget to take care of myself. Sometimes I forget to eat. Sometimes I forget to take that time for my life and that time for myself to take care and be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And yeah, like if anyone is struggling, like please reach out. Like I feel like that reaching out is the biggest thing you can do for yourself.
Yes.
One of the most humbling things you can do for your life as well. So
Absolutely. And that's big too. Mental health is so real. A lot of people don't even want to recognize, that they have a mental health issue, but what awareness is what will save your life. Be aware.
yeah,
And it's okay to not be okay, but like Gavin said, reach out for the help.
well, yeah, that and being uncomfortable is being comfortable.
Yeah.
Because I have a hard time with that, especially being by myself. Like and feeling the way that I'm feeling, like I have a hard time with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Or being comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks.
But that's where you grow. If you're not uncomfortable, then you're not growing. That means you're in
Yeah.
your comfort zone and you're just cool with that. You have to be uncomfortable to grow.
Uh-huh.
And it gets better. You're a prime example. I'm just so excited. I know that you have so much more to offer and so much more you're going to be doing. What's your plans? Do you have anything coming up?
Oh, I got a lot of goals right
Mm-hmm.
now. I'm just taking it day by day. I don't have it on me right now, but I had this. I got this fortune cookie last night. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
just hear me out. Okay, this sounds really really odd. I got this fortune cookie last night because I was at a family friend's house in the program, who's in the program, and they had Chinese food on it. So I took one of the fortune cookies, and it says, quit stringing the instrument when you can start playing the instrument, or quit stringing the instrument, or quit tuning and stringing the instrument when you can just play it. And so I'm gonna get at with that of I need to quit dragging my feet and get along with playing with my goals.
There you go.
You feel me?
I feel
and that hit me hard last night. I was like, holy shit! Like, I'm literally dragging my feet, and I'm literally just stringing the guitar.
Yeah.
And I'm tuning it, you know, and I'm just dragging my feet along with my life right now and surviving. I'm not living. I need to start playing this beautiful song in my life.
Yes, I love that.
And instead of tuning it and start chasing these goals that I got for myself.
Absolutely.
You know, and so I found that as a very big inspiration for myself last night of like, damn, like maybe right now is the time that I start chasing my goals instead of dragging my feet along with doing it.
Yeah.
You know, so I got goals right now. I got plans of starting up my own podcast here in the next few weeks.
Good for you.
Yeah, you know, just mainly mainstreaming it towards the youth.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know what I want to do it on yet, or I don't know what my name's gonna be. I gotta come up with a name. You know,
just pray about it. God will send it to you.
Exactly.
It'll be something amazing. It's gonna be just what it needs to catch these young people attention because it's needed, and I think that would be great. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and so with that being said, you know, I got goals of that. I don't know. Right now, I'm just content with life. I'm just content with, you know, working at the treatment center. I'm just trying to carry my life, you know, 1 foot at a time.
Yeah.
One step at a time. So.
Yeah.
But my biggest goal right now is to start this podcast and get it going. So.
Yeah, well, if I could be of any assistance, I'm no pro, but you know, I know a couple of tricks or two.
Yeah, but you got your own podcast, so I will definitely take you up on that offer soon.
Yeah. So just hit me up anytime. I got you. You know, I want to see you have the life of abundance that God has promised you. You're on the way. You know, you got a lot of good support. Phil is in the chat. Hey, Phil, he said you're an inspiration.
I appreciate it, Phil.
So, you know, that is true. You are very inspiring. I've been telling my kids, all the kids I know, hey, watch my podcast, because kids don't too much watch my podcast. But I'm like, I'm going to have Gavin on. You guys got to watch it. And they're like, okay. Yeah. But I was super psyched to have you because you're such a blessing. Like, you're going to save some people's lives, you know, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very, very blessed. I really am. It's definitely an amazing opportunity to be able to, you know, do stuff like this.
Yeah.
And sometimes I take it for granted, you know, how blessed and lucky I am to be able to have opportunities and have connections like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I'm trying to be self-aware of it.
Yeah.
And self-aware of, you know, being grateful for things like this.
Yeah.
And opportunities. So.
Yeah. Well, good for you. You know, you're very mature to be 20 years old, so don't beat yourself up. Give yourself some grace and some room to grow, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you again for coming. I will keep you in my prayers. If you need any help with your podcast, let me know. Okay?
I will. I most definitely will.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Thank you again. You have a good night. Love you.
Love you too. I'll see you later.
All right. See you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.